All right, welcome to the PaulCast. My name is Paul Daugherty. Honored that you are tuned in here, subscribing to this podcast and sharing it with your friends. Today, I am joined with my friend, Coach JC, Jonathan Keneally, and I can't wait for you to hear his story, his testimony, and really how it can impact your life, like what he's walked through. He has been a coach in my life. He has been a voice of motivation, inspiration, encouragement. He also, in one season of my life, before I had kids, was for 2.5 years getting me up at 5 a.m, coming over to his garage and doing the most intense workouts and then shouting at me, "That's my pastor. That's my pastor," and stirring me up. So I want to talk a little bit about your story and how you got into helping people with fitness and with life and what you're doing today. But back up a little bit. Tell them who Coach JC is and how you got started in this.
Yeah, absolutely. But first of all, I just want to say thank you. I'm honored to be here. The PaulCast, baby, sitting down with the greatest.
Come on, bro.
I mean, you're the GOAT in the pastoral world to me.
No.
And I'm just grateful to have somebody, a pastor like you, that represents victory in life. And so just thank you for your servant heart. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all you do for Tulsa, the community. And I don't know. I made a lot of neighbor friends that time when you were out at my garage working out in the morning. And I had a lot of neighbors like, "You're torturing your pastor? Do you want to go to hell? Like, are you really trying to go?" I'm like, "No, I'm not trying to go to hell. I'm not helping him." Like, "You cannot convince us you're helping Pastor Paul. We saw him on TV. You're out here torturing him." So it was some interesting conversations.
Bro, you had me out on the asphalt road doing the most intense. I had to run, do a burpee, jump back up, push a tire, then, scream. And we're playing Andy Mineo. "You can't stop me." 5:30 in the morning. That was wild.
And I'd say this, you're an athlete, man. This guy's like an athlete. Your conditioning, like your mental toughness. You wrote the book on the mind games. Your mental game's a different level. I would sit there. I'm like, maybe I just need to
stop.
He's fighting through everything I give him. I got to give him more. What? Oh, he's going to think I'm
You
weak.
threatened me during one time when I was about to quit in the middle of the morning because I was like, "I can't do it, Coach." You were like, "I'm going to go to another church. I'm going to listen to another pastor. If you don't do this."
I really say that?
Yeah, you were like, "Pastor Bill Scheer is better than you." I was like, "Stop it." And you motivated me to get back up and finish the workout. I was like, he's going to stay at victory for this.
Well, hey, if I really did say that, I don't know. I need to repent now.
No,
I
it
do
was funny.
apologize.
I needed it. You were kicking me. You were getting me going.
Hey, you know what's great about that? What you just said is Victory's been my home church now since 2003.
Wow.
And even if I was joking like that, I would never leave. I think I'm here for a reason. And as we get into my story today, a huge part of why I'm alive and doing what I'm able to do in helping people win is because of a Victory church and because of your dad, right? And so, I'll just take you back for a quick moment because you asked my story. I grew up in the great state of New Jersey. I was raised by a single mom. My dad walked out when I was 8 years old. My sister, she's about 18 months older than me. And my mom was an amazing and still is an amazing human being. Spirit-filled, took us to church every week, raised us on great morals. But from we suffered a lot from a monetary perspective, right? We lived in shelters. We lived in group housing. We moved a lot. A lot of people, they get to take their kids. If you're watching right now, you probably take your kids to the grocery store on Sunday, right, to get groceries for the week. We didn't have that privilege all the time. There was a lot of times on Sunday where we got our groceries by going to local churches, right? And food pantries at churches. And that's why I have such a big heart for the Dream Center in Tulsa. But I'll never forget, Pastor, there was a defining moment in my life. I was like 8 years old and we were living in a shelter. Group housing, if you're not familiar with that. And I'll never forget, I was at the top of a bunk bed. My sister was at the bottom. And I remember just crying and weeping and asking why. Like, why us? Why can't I have the Michael Jordan sneakers like everybody else? Why do we have to suffer like this? And I had no idea what it meant at 8 years old, but I knew for the rest of my life what my calling was. And it came from this I remember it was just this anger. I hated to see people be in pain and suffering. And it was this anger. And then on the other side of it, it just broke my heart. And I was on a mission. I was like, I'm going to be the one. I'm going to stop this. And it's going to start with my family. And I'll never forget, I was on a mission to show my dad basically, hey, we don't really need you. I'm going to become the man of this household, right? Who takes that on at 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
And so I was on this mission to rescue my mom and my sister from this poverty-stricken life. And I was going to do it one of two ways. You're going to love this because I've heard some of your story, how you want to be a professional rapper too. But
come on, bro.
I was going to do it by making a lot of money.
They haven't heard about that. But talk about it.
I was going to do it by making a lot of money. And I was either going to become a professional rapper
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was Vanilla Ice, Ice Baby. That didn't work out real well. Or I was going to be a pro athlete, got really good at sports, and basketball took me out to Oral Roberts University with an opportunity to play basketball. In 1999, Jersey boy ends up in Tulsa, Oklahoma with big goals and dreams to play basketball. Freshman year, made one decision that radically changed my life, abandoned the morals that, my mom raised us on, and cute girl on campus, all the athletes were chasing her, and guess who won? This guy. She gets pregnant. That's not okay at Oral Roberts University. Obviously, it's a religious school. They said, hurry up and get married, cover it up. You got to play basketball, covered it up. Make a long story short, we got divorced in 8 months after getting married, ended up in a custody battle for 8 years, suicidal, depressed, down and out, over $400,000 debt, throwing away my opportunity to play basketball. But that was a defining moment in my life when I enrolled in Victory's Bible College, and God did something and had a different plan for my life. So,
talk about when you were at that lowest point, what made you enroll in Victory Bible College?
Yeah. Great question. I mean, I had just people around me that wanted to see me win and knew I was broken, going through this custody battle, fighting to be a dad, in this identity crisis. All I knew was basketball. So I was living with a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and just really just down and out, hopeless and helpless. And a friend of mine, just said, hey, I think it'd be really good if you go to this Bible college. And I was like, well, I don't have money to go to this Bible college. And then somebody wound up blessing me with the money at an actual Victory conference back in the day. It wasn't called Victory Conference. It was called
Word Explosion.
Word Explosion, baby, at the Maybe Center.
Come on.
And I was like, all right, God, you're talking to me. And that took me to go to Bible college. And so actually
what year was that?
This was 2001. 2002, yeah. Yeah, Victory Bible College. We were out at the T.L. Osborne building at Skelly and 51st Street.
Come on. So at that moment, you're in a custody battle. You've walked through the pain of feeling like, man, I failed in this moment, and you felt down. You said you battled suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Where was that moment where you almost threw it away? Was it in that first year that you had the baby and the divorce happened, or what was it? When was that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, I'll tell you a story just to bring it home, but, I would travel from Tulsa, Oklahoma, every other weekend, where my daughter was in Minnesota. And I would travel 12 hours up there by car, leave at 5 a.m., get up there by 5:30 p.m., have my daughter until Sunday at 1:30 p.m., drive back, get back at 1:30 a.m., and then go to school. And I became a strength coach and all that, and I would go do school. And so there was a defining moment. I did that for 4 years. Every other weekend, drove that trip just to fight to be a dad and see my daughter. And so it was this one day in particular. I'll never forget it like it was yesterday. And I drove up there just another day. All I was living for, like my mission was just to be a dad. I was hopeless and helpless, but I had to see my daughter. I had to be in her life. I felt I had that responsibility because my dad wasn't in my life as much as I wanted him when I was young. Yeah. And so I was never going to abandon that, right? And so when I drove up there, we went to I was supposed to go to the local pickup spot when you're doing this parenting time, weird stuff and visitation, and it was Walmart in a small town in Minnesota. And I get there and I'm excited to see my daughter after 12 hours, no money in the bank, desperate, hopeless, and helpless. And I'll never forget it. They didn't show up with my daughter. And I'll never forget, I called my attorney in Oklahoma, and my attorney says, we can't help you. You owe us money. I'm hopeless. I have no idea what to do. And so I just got in my little 5-speed Nissan Sentra, started driving back to Tulsa, frustrated. And it's like 1 a.m. in the morning, Pastor, and I'm going through the dark roads of Iowa. And I'm just started having that conversation with myself again. Hey, you know what? You have no purpose. Man, you let your mom down. You threw away your story. Maybe your daughter's better off without you. She doesn't need you. And all of a sudden, I'm having that conversation with myself. And I start pushing the gas a little harder. And this is one of them times where I really, really was on the brink of taking my life. And I find myself going over 100 miles an hour. It's pitch dark out. There's nothing going on, these dark roads going through Iowa. And all of a sudden, I'm just yelling at myself, weeping uncontrollably. Just do it. She's better off without you. Your daughter doesn't need you. You're useless. You're helpless. And I'm just pushing. I start swerving, contemplating running myself off the road like a madman. And all of a sudden, as I'm doing this, I start to hear sirens. And I get pulled over by an Iowa State trooper. And I get goosebumps thinking about it right now because as I told my mom the story, she laughs and it's just so bizarre. She's like, it was an angel. And so I get pulled over by the state trooper. And the state trooper walks up to the window of my car and knocks on the window. And I roll the window down and he could tell I'm just distressed, weeping. And he said, what are you trying to do? First words out of his mouth. I said, what are you trying to do, kid? Are you trying to kill yourself? And I looked him in the eyes and I'll never forget what this guy looked like. I said, you know what, officer? That would be great right now. And he says, what's going on? And this guy took the time over the next 5 minutes and just heard and you know, when you're just desperate, you have like diarrhea of the mouth. And I just start telling this guy everything.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm in a custody battle. I threw my basketball opportunity. I went to see my daughter. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't see her. And I don't even know if I'm going to make it back to Tulsa. I have no money in my bank account. And this guy just listened for 5 minutes and then said something that radically changed my life. He said, I don't know you, young man. He said, but I can tell you have greatness inside of you.
Wow.
And he said, everything you're going through, there's going to become a day in your life where you realize it all had to happen.
Wow.
And I remember the first emotion was this anger. Like, I was like, this guy, what the heck? Who's it? What the fuck was he talking about? It had to happen. Like, I just told you everything's going on. And he goes, well, listen to me. Just trust me. Get back to Tulsa safe. And you're going to realize the day comes when everything you're going through, it had to happen. And he goes, you have a guy, like, he just started preaching at me. I don't remember anything, but he was like, you're great. You have a call in your life. And I'm just staring at him like, what is this guy talking about? I couldn't make sense of it. What do you mean? And so he followed me for about 4 or 5 miles. I'll never forget it. And just said, get back to Tulsa safe. Let me go. And I drove back to Tulsa.
Wow.
And over that next time through Iowa, through Joplin, all the way to Tulsa, it just replayed through my mind. It had to happen. Like every time, I didn't know what it meant. I get home, I go to ORU, go to school early in the morning, get home that day, and I open a book that somebody gave me called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And the first thing I read in this book, tell me this is not a God moment, it says the meaning of anything in life only has the meaning you choose to give it. It was at that moment when I put together what this state trooper said, the meaning of anything in life, where I said, you know what? I'm going to change my entire story. What if this all really had to happen? Yeah. And I changed my perspective at that moment. I started to give the entire situation a new meaning, realizing that life doesn't happen to you. Life happens for you. That maybe because of this, something great will happen. Maybe it all really had to happen. Maybe basketball and ORU was not my story, but there's a bigger purpose to my life. And when I changed my perspective and I started to change the way that I started to see things started to change. And so when you ask me what a defining moment was, that was a defining moment where after that, I didn't think about taking my life again because I shifted how I saw the situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
Oh, it's powerful.
I don't think you've ever told me about the state trooper moment. This is the first time, because I've known you for a long time, but that's the first time I've heard that specific story.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've tried to go up and find as I've got through this and won the battle, custody of my daughter and all that. I tried to go up there and find this guy. And I went, because I couldn't find him. I didn't know his name, never gave me a warning. As I got older and matured, I realized this guy could have impounded my car. He could have arrested me. I was acting like a madman. This guy took the time to speak life into me.
My goodness.
Right? This is one of the reasons we started the nonprofit, Fit First Responders, to serve our first responders.
Wow.
Right? What if that guy just did his job? Right? And never spoke life. I might not be around today. And then I get home and open that book, Tony Robbins, enroll in Victory's Bible College, get a hold of the Word of God, personal development, Tony Robbins, and just was on this mission just to create this new story and discover my purpose outside of just basketball and discover this new identity I had.
Bro, that is incredible. I think about the people that are listening right now that have the chance to be what that cop was for you, to be an interrupting voice of hope and purpose and redirecting perspective. And what you are now, you are that cop to other people. You are interrupting people's moments of despair, discouragement, feeling angry at life, angry at God, offense, all of those things. You're the sirens now. You're coming in and you are helping, like you're helping first responders right here in Tulsa, police and firefighters and IMSA. But fast forward a little bit, give us the story of going through Victory Bible College, remarrying, and then leading up to what you began to do through 2010, 12, 14, all the way up to now, 2025.
Yeah, it was at that time, right when I had the interaction with the police officer. I enrolled in Victory's Bible College. You know, Ron McIntosh comes into my life. Your dad came into my life. I mean, they're running this huge church with campuses and things and missionaries all over the country. And I'm like, these two men took the time to speak life into me and made the time for me, Pastor Billy Joe Daugherty and Ron McIntosh. And I never take it for granted. But I was sitting in a class of Ron McIntosh's when he's talking about renewing your mind. And Romans 12:2, do not be conformed to the things of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And he said something that just hit me. He said, this is a biblical principle and a promise. Put it to work. Go test God. And I'm like, okay. And so I started to understand and dig deep in that verse. How do you renew your mind? I'm studying at ORU. I started to study psychology. I'm getting a hold of Tony Robbins' personal development. And I discovered the power of the mindset, how every action originates here, right? It's just how life works. And as I started to study this between Tony Robbins' personal development and going all in on me and becoming who God created me to become and the Word of God, I was like radically able to transform my life. Like people would come up to me and be like, we don't even recognize you. Like, what are you? You're going through this custody battle, but like people were even like, maybe at some like, does this guy need to be checked in? People would ask that because they'd say, hold on, we saw you like a month ago. You were down and out suicidal. And then we just asked you how you're doing. And like, I'm like, and I'm just preaching at them and telling them like, don't worry about me. Like this all had to happen. Like, and people like, they couldn't understand it. But I can honestly say that when I started implementing the Word of God and not just what my mom tried to tell us growing up, but made it real for me and have my own genuine relationship with Jesus Christ and understood what that was and started renewing my mind and through personal development, I created a new story for my life. And that story took me to where I am today. I went on to become the youngest strength and conditioning coach in the nation across where we're filming today, Oral Roberts University.
Come on, ORU in the background.
The place where I came from, New Jersey, with a story to play basketball
at that Navy
Center, threw away my story. And then think about the restoration. In 2003, I came here in 1999. In 2003, I'm hired by Oral Roberts University as the youngest director of strength and conditioning in the nation.
Wow.
Youngest ever in the nation at 23 years old.
Wow.
Started my first company at that time out of desperation to help, fight to be a dad. Wrote my first book. Now, fast forward 6 books later, speaking, on stages all across America. We have a coaching program called Win All Day. But I contribute so much of that success in winning and what I'm able to do today and impacting people to Victory Bible College, getting hold of the Word of God, Pastor Billy Joe, and what he did in my life and Ron McIntosh and personal development.
So, okay, then you remarried in 2009 or 10?
Yeah, in 2010, 10-09.
10-10-09.
We're close on that.
Come on, yeah.
The date's close.
Yeah, my wedding was 10-17-09. So we were a week after you guys. And talk about the journey of you walk through the pain of your first marriage, ending in divorce. God leads you and Jody together.
Yeah.
She's serving. Talk about even just you doing what you do and Jody and you doing this together and even serving at the church, being involved at Victory. Over the years, you've helped in a variety of ways. But talk about people out there who feel sometimes like, man, can I get back involved serving in the church, ministering in the church? Talk about your journey of where God led you serving and being plugged in at Victory, you and Jody.
Yeah, it's simple. Like Jody came into my life when I was at the biggest battle, fighting to be a dad. And she came into my life as a friend. And she was just there as a cheerleader, supporting me. I was super scared to get in any relationship. I didn't think I was ever going to get married again. And she was just there as a supportive friend, fighting this battle with me. We were in an 8-year custody battle. And the biggest testimony of all of this, we got full custody when my daughter was 10 years old. She came to live with us in Tulsa, Oklahoma, went to Victory School, graduated Victory School. God's got a plan in our life. She
led worship on stage for us.
Led worship on stage. And, and so God worked all things together for good. And Jody was a huge part of that. But that was a long battle, man.
Yeah.
And to see
how long do custody battles normally last?
I mean, that's a hard question.
Is 8 years a normal?
No.
Most people, it's a year or two or something like that.
This isn't a normal custody battle. I mean, we went through 8 years, 2 different states, went through crazy false allegations. The most absurd things you could ever say were said about me to keep me from my daughter. It was absolutely insanity. We went through 2 full 7-day trials. I was cleared. I had to get criminal attorney, spent over $400,000 in debt to clear my name and to actually just be in my daughter's life.
Wow.
But we learned a lot throughout that, and the system has changed. And I think the system's starting to see the value in fathers' lives.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother message right there.
A whole nother message. But I could tell you this, Pastor, when I enrolled at Victory's Bible College and it radically changed my life, I was indebted to Victory. Like I said from that day, if I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I will never go another place. The support and the love and the compassion, the empathy, but also in the natural, what your mom and dad did to stand alongside me, the phone calls they made, how they tried to help. And I don't even want to get into it. It was just, it was undeserving. I didn't understand why they would do it. And so the love that came out of this place to really show the love of Christ. I mean, 2 greatest commandments, like love the Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. I witnessed that firsthand from Pastor Billy Joe and from Pastor Sharon.
Come on.
And I started volunteering and made a commitment that I'm going to volunteer And so when Jody came in my life, she kind of was like, I don't go to church as much. She actually graduated Victory High School, right? She was like, I'm not going. I'm like, listen, you're going to be with me. You're going to Victory. If you're going to be with me, you're volunteering. Like, that's non-negotiable. And so we just made a decision. That's how it's going to be, that you live a life to give. And so we're always going to stay plugged in and we're always going to give. And I think that's where most people have a lot of hardships in life. Life's very hard. And it's a lot harder when you make life all about you.
Yeah.
Right? You got to sometimes get out of your head and get in your body and start giving and start serving.
Yes.
Right? And when you start doing that, I think it puts things in perspective. So we've served in many different capacities since 2003 at Victory.
You know what's wild is I run into people all the time at our church who say, I was impacted by Coach JC serving here. Like, not even impacted by you preaching, because you've preached here before. And you have obviously spoken on many stages, but your serving in your spirit has ministered to hundreds, if not thousands of people that call Victory home, that have just walked into the doors in a 9 a.m. service feeling overwhelmed by life, discouraged, overweight, walking through financial struggles, physical struggles, health struggles, and they see you and they encounter you as an usher, as a greeter, as someone who says win all day. And your spirit has impacted. I think, it's interesting. Dr. Phil is known as one of the most powerful voices to America and to families out there. But a lot of people don't know he has served faithfully 25 years at the same local church as a parking lot greeter in Dallas, Texas. And he was sharing one time his testimony. He said, the Lord told me that if I ever have a platform or a voice that speaks to the nation, to never forget to serve his local church faithfully. And I think that's what you've done. You've continued to remain humble in that way. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I think for me, I've made this decision that I'm at Victory to serve Victory. Everywhere I go, I want to represent what victory looks like and I represent what winning looks like. And my wife, it's almost a joke because on Sundays when we come to church, like at the end of church, she just puts her hand out and that means hand me the keys because she knows like I'm going to be an extra hour because I'm on mission.
Praying with people, talking to people, encouraging them.
I don't show up to church just to get filled like I do. And I mean, you're the greatest preacher and I get what I come for and I come for the word. But man, when I walk in a building after what I went through, rock bottom, suicidal, I discovered what my purpose is. And there's a lot of people that when they show up, we've talked about this before, they're here I am kind of people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not that kind of person. I made that decision when God gave me a second chance that I'm going to be a there you are kind of person. Yeah. When I walk in a building, I'm there on purpose, like we say every Sunday, for a purpose. I'm on assignment. See, when you show up and you're just punching a clock or a job, you do things differently than when you're on mission.
Yes.
So when I show up, I'm on mission. When I walk in Victory, when I walk in a gas station, when I walk in anywhere I go, I walk in knowing God placed me here. I'm on assignment.
Yes.
And I know so many people walk into church on Sunday broken and they get motivated, they get inspired, and then they go back to everyday life Monday through Saturday. And I feel like if I could be the dose of hope, if I could be the dose of encouragement, if I could help you have no idea. We have no idea. We think because it's church that people walk in and everything's okay.
Yeah.
There's more imperfect people in church. I talk to people every week that are going through absolute hell in their life. And God placed me in front of them. It might give me a word. The Holy Spirit say, hey, go meet this person. Say something to this person. I'm on assignment.
Yeah.
And I show up with mission every Sunday, every time I walk in this building, and it's to serve at the highest level because I feel indebted to what Pastor Billy Joe did to me. I don't ever need to be recognized for it, like you just said, but I'm grateful that people see that and say that I've changed their life. That's great. But yeah, it's a joke because my wife knows, like when we go to church, like I might say I'm going to the restroom and I might not be back for 45 minutes. I'm trying to listen to your sermon. I'll have to pick it up later on a podcast because I'm telling you, it happens every week. But I think what you look for, you'll find. When I'm going to the bathroom, God, all of a sudden, there's a viable point. I say, hey, my man, how long have you been going to Victory? What's my first day? Oh, here we go. God placed me there. It's going to be a divine appointment. So I just show up different than I think most people show up to church. I want to get fed, but I show up and I see how many people can I impact over that short amount of time during that day.
Well, I think you give a valuable lesson here too, because a lot of people show up to church with a consumerist mindset. But if you're a member of a church, you should see yourself as part of the kitchen staff.
Yeah.
Like you are one of the chefs. in the way that if I wasn't the pastor and my dad was the pastor, my mom or you were the pastor, and God's called me to that church, I'm not just coming to hear, what does he have to say? Or what does she have to say? I'm coming to be a part of ministering to who's there. And so I'm getting in the kitchen. I'm putting on my apron. I'm helping cut up the carrots. I'm getting the onion. I'm going to work on the salad while he's working on the steak. I'm going to work on one of the appetizers, the dessert. And I think about, so many people attend church sitting out in the restaurant waiting for the kitchen staff to bring them a salad, a steak, a dessert, and then they'll critique it and go, I'm going to go on Yelp and decide this meal was 4 stars, but they don't come ready to put on an apron. And I love how you just described, I do go to church. I love my church, love my pastor, but I'm not there to just get something. I'm there to be a part of bringing the food out to people, ministering to people, looking for people in the hallway, in the lobby. So I think that's incredible. Okay, I want to just shift for a second. You do a lot of coaching, not just for people to get in shape physically, but for people to overcome mental strongholds. What do you think are some of the top topics that you're dealing with people that are struggling to win in life, mentally, emotionally, physically?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, here's the bottom line. I think life comes down to 2 things, Pastor, and this is, for me, to answer your question, it's like meaning and emotions. And think about this for a second. Most people are struggling because they're led by feelings.
Yeah.
Right? I think the 5 words that absolutely will destroy you living and walking out a victorious life or winning are 5 simple words. And it's these words. I don't feel like it. Right? I mean, think about the 5. So many people, think about if we were to look and ask people how much of what you do on a daily basis is led by feelings.
Yeah.
So much of life is led by feelings and emotions. And if you always live your life by feelings and emotions, you'll always be a roller coaster, right? And so, and that means ups and downs.
And you won't win.
You won't win. I mean, you won't win. I mean, life is hard, right? You're going to have feelings and emotions. And so what I had to get really good at and what we coach high level at is shifting the meaning, right? Think about this. Life isn't what happens to you. It's about how you respond. Yeah. All right. And so you can't control all the events. You can't control who's present. You can't control everything that goes on in church. You can't control what your spouse says. You can't. But so many times we allow what goes on to control and dictate our response and who we are.
Yeah.
Right. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you respond. And so the thing that radically changed my life is understanding how to not make emotionally based decisions, but make decisions based off of who I am, my identity, make decisions based off of why I do what I do, my mission, my purpose, make decisions based off of where I'm going, what winning looks like, my vision, the goal, my destiny, what God called me to do.
Yeah.
But so many people, they don't have clarity around those things. They don't know who they are. They don't have clear vision, right? And they don't have a strong enough mission or purpose. So they make decisions based off of feelings. If I feel this way, I do it. If I don't feel this way, I don't do it. And so I just got really good, and this is a huge part of our coaching program, in being able, I deal with all the stress everybody else deals with.
Yeah.
I just learned how not to stay stuck in this emotional state that doesn't serve you too long.
Yeah.
See, most people, they have an emotion, and it's a bad emotion, right? Because of the meaning they assign to the situation.
Yeah.
So if you could just change the story, change the narrative of whatever goes on, just like I did through a $400,000 debt, suicidal, custody battle, and all of a sudden I said, wait a second, life doesn't happen to me, life happens for me. Because of this, something great will happen. It all had to happen, right? With every obstacle, there's opportunities. With every problem, there's possibilities, right? Failure is really not failure, it's just feedback.
Yeah.
What you look for, you will find.
Yeah.
And when you change the way you look at the world changes. But many times we see the world the way we see ourselves.
Yeah.
So if you could get really good at seeing yourself the way God sees you, number 1, right? And number 2 is getting really good at how and what you assign to the situations that go on around you. So if something happens, I get to choose the meaning I give it, the story I give it. That's belief. Now, whatever I choose to believe about this situation, whatever story I give it, that's the emotions it's going to create.
Yeah.
And these emotions is what's going to drive my behavior and my choices and my decisions. And most people, they see something, it's bad reaction, anger, frustration, whatever it is. Now they have those emotions. Now they start to act that way. And all of a sudden it spirals and their life ends up this direction and they wonder why. Because you have to just get good at changing the meaning and not allow emotions to dictate and determine who you are and what you do.
So let's break it down. Who's a person? You don't have to say their name, but give a person in the most recent times in the last year that you have helped them reframe what you're talking about and what happened in their life as they begin to change the meaning of what they were looking at and living by feelings. Give like maybe just an example of somebody.
Man, there's so many. I mean, I get to work with some of the top athletes. I mean, performance on the field. But there's definitely, a guy that I can think of that comes to my mind, and it's close to my heart, right? He was going through a situation with his wife, made a bunch of mistakes, right? And I can relate. We all make mistakes. And he called me. And so we're on the phone call, and I'm kind of laughing about it because I was, kind of in the middle of my own thing. And he says, man, I don't know how I could bounce back from this. What am I going to do? And the entire situation was just about him changing the story. The story had to go from, poor me, victim, right? Yeah. The guilt, the shame, all of that stuff to maybe God's got a plan for all of this, right? And so as he shifted that story, it's such a cool story to me because, and I would never name names, but I see him in church, right?
Come on, Jesus.
He's volunteering.
Come on.
I see his wife in church. She's volunteering. His wife came up to me and said something that just, thank you, that basically it changed and saved their marriage, which I get emotional. And then he came up to me and just said, thank you. And they're both serving at the church. And I look back how just 6 months ago, he called me in a desperate situation and I had him do exactly what I just mentioned. Just gave him a drill, right? A formula, right? But how to change the story.
Yes.
And it doesn't just happen overnight, right? You have to change a story, but it's the power of repetition, right? You've got to start to renew in the mind's a daily process. He had to start to say things differently. He had to start to think differently. He had to start to speak differently on a daily basis until he almost convinced and conditioned himself to believe this new story, this new narrative, right?
Come on.
And he also had to do some work on who he was and his identity, right? And so that's one of the most touching things because we're here at Victory, and then he just texts me like, we were out of town and doing it. He said, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. I just want to make sure you're good,
Come on.
And I'm looking and I'm like, man, God, you're so good. So that's just one that just happened recently.
I think one of the coolest things that you do and that we get to do is be a part of someone's transformation. Someone who's in a moment of despair, a moment of addiction. And I say a moment, it could have been a lifetime. Could have been a decade of addiction or a decade of depression or suicidal thoughts. But then we get to be a part of helping them walk out of that, like you said, rewiring the brain, helping them change the way they're looking at this situation. Not that God wanted them to walk through failure or that God willed for them to live in sin, but that God is going to use everything you walk through for good, even though the devil meant it for bad, even though your flesh gave into temptation. God can turn your story around. And I love that you just shared on the other side of helping other people, they start looking out for you and they're like, bro, how you doing? In moments in my life where you have been such an encouragement to me, has to feel like a great moment in your heart where you go, his dad helped me and now I get to help him. When my dad was a voice of encouragement to you, a hope, dealer to you, someone that was giving you, whatever it was, just a second chance or a sense of encouragement, restoration. And then when I was walking through seasons, I wrote a book called Mind Games, and I talk about dealing with depression, the mind games of wanting to throw in the towel. And you were a voice of encouragement to me to say, Paul, don't give up, get back up, run your race. Life's not happening to you. Life's happening for you. And I love that because you were challenging me to get over the pity party, get over the victim mindset, and get over living by my feelings. That has to feel good to be a part of seeing someone make a change that's still in your life today, and you're seeing that change play out.
It's everything. And I love it. And I love that you wrote the book on mind games, right? Because I studied the psychology at ORU. It was my undergrad. I did the personal development 20 years. I was like, the mental game, I'm telling you, we wrote a whole certification on this. We wrote the playbook for it. We get to go into organizations and companies and do the personal development and the mental performance and conditioning. And I think we take it for granted in the church. That's why I'm so blessed you wrote the book, because we just read the verse, Romans 12:2 that I mentioned earlier, right? And it says, says, do not be conformed to the things of this world, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. But many Christians I discovered never, ever have been equipped on how to renew the mind.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the Mind Games book. And so to see how far you've come and to see that I've even played a small part in it, I mean, yeah, I'm honored.
A big part of it.
I'm honored. I'm grateful. But you think about what you said though earlier, right? We could sit here all day and confess Bible verses and still be losing in life.
Yeah.
Right. John 10:10 says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The enemy's out there.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't want us to win, but the verse doesn't end there. Right. God has come so that you could live an abundant life.
Yes.
Right. Jeremiah 29:11. Right. God wants you to live a life of fullness, and he has hope for and a good plan for your life. But I think people have to understand the mind games are real.
Yeah.
You're going to be tormented every single day. And the enemy knows every action originates with a thought. Paul, you know this probably already, but if you're watching, did you know we get 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day?
No.
60 to 80,000
I didn't
thoughts
even know
a day as human beings, you and me and them watching it. And here's the crazy thing about that. Studies have been shown that over 80% of those thoughts on a daily basis are negative thoughts. And what we call them is ants. Automatic negative thoughts, A-N-T.
Wow.
Ants. So if there was ants running around the floor right now, right? Like, we're not going to get up and run out. We're probably just going to stomp the ants.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why people lose. Out of those 6 to 8,000 thoughts, 80% of them are ants. A-N-T, automatic negative thoughts, meaning they get the same negative thoughts on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know what happens? Doesn't matter if you're Christian or not. Most people spend too much time listening. You got to understand, you're not.
They let the ants just crawl all over.
And then those ants have babies.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to shut the ants up. And how you shut the ants up is you speak more, you listen less.
Come on.
The word of God says death and life are in the power of the tongue,
Yes.
right? And faith comes by hearing. But here's the powerful thing. From a scientific perspective, your mind can only go in the direction of one dominant thought at a time.
Yeah.
So if I speak winning or victory, I can't be thinking about the negative ants.
Yeah.
But most people, they have the automatic negative thought and they meditate on it and they marinate on it. And then it just grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
But if you can learn, death and life are in the power, if I could start speaking, winning confessions more and shut up the ants, that's how you win. I got to get so good at stomping the automatic negative thoughts. Why? Every action originates with a thought. You have a thought, you create a story, a belief. That belief, you then go take an action, and that creates your reality. The Mind Games books gives you a blueprint. What we do at Win All Day and Victory gives you a blueprint, not just to come and get excited and hear the word of God, but also let me give you the meat on how you're going to renew your mind so you don't have to go through what we went through.
Yeah.
So that's a plug. If you have not picked up the Mind Games book, pick it up.
Come on. Get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Stop those ants, baby.
Stop those ants. Bro, I think, so many thoughts come to my mind. Speaking of 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, I'm getting thoughts as you're saying this, because I agree with you that so much of our life is made up in the mind, that as a man thinketh, so is he. If you think defeated, if you think depressed, you live depressed. If you think small, you live small. If you think poor, you live poor. If you think addicted, you live addicted. If you think I'm stuck, you live stuck. So one of the things that you have helped me do, helped other people do, one of the things I believe that book that I wrote helps people do is to get out of those thoughts, get out of your mind, but start winning in the mind. Start imagining victory, envisioning, I remember practicing basketball and my coach used to say, envision the ball going into the hoop. Stop thinking that the ball is going to go out. Just see it going through that hoop. Practice the free throws and in your mind, see the ball going in. That helped me. I started making my free throws. But I think people oftentimes are replaying the ball's going to miss. It's going to be a brick. It's not going to work. She's going to say no. They're rejected. Whether it's a single guy thinking he can't ask a girl out, or whether it's a married couple thinking they'll never get out of this cycle of strife, that it's always going to be bad. They're always going to yell at me. I'll never be good enough. Or whether it's, a couple of things, they'll never have children, or people that will never, accomplish the dreams, whatever it is, start the business. We have to start seeing the picture of victory on the inside. Yeah. And one thing you and I have both said is if you win on the inside, you can win on the outside. So one of the practical things you talked about was this guy started changing some habits in his life. As he started rewiring his brain to see God's going to use this for good, God's going to turn things around, he also started making changes. What are some changes that you think can help people out there that will help them also start winning, not just mentally, but in other areas of their life?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think just piggyback off of what you just said. I mean, what you just said is, what you're seeing, right? I mean, I think so many people don't have a vision for their life.
Yeah.
Right? So many people are moved by what they see in the natural.
Yeah.
Right? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yes.
And so I think one of the first steps I ask people all the time is, what does victory look like to you? Right? What does winning look like to you? Right? I think so many times we go through struggles, we go through adversity, we go through obstacles, that all of a sudden we forget about the dreams that God put on the inside of us.
Yes.
And so you're a big component of this. And what I do as well is getting people to reawaken those dreams.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're watching right now, like Helen Keller said this, born blind. She said, what's worse than being born blind? Having your sight with no vision. Right? What are you seeing? Not what you see when your eyes are open, but what you can see when your eyes are closed. I mean, we call this visualization. We call this mental imagery, mental rehearsal. Like this is a drill that we teach some of the top athletes in the world to actually like run. Like Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Remember his story? Like he wanted to be a famous actor.
Yeah.
Right? This guy is on Rodeo Drive in LA, right? He's not getting the gig he wants. He has his dream to be this famous actor and get paid a big salary. And all of a sudden he's driving around Rodeo Drive and he's like, I get this idea. I'm going to pull out this check, this blank check.
Yeah.
Right? He pulls out the blank check and he writes to him, Jim Carrey, for a big part in a big show, in a big movie, right? Or a main role actor in a movie, and he puts $10 million on it.
Yeah.
Right? And he starts seeing that check every single day made out to him, Jim Carrey, right? You know this story.
Yeah.
You shared this.
Yeah.
Right? $10 million.
Yeah.
And then he didn't see anything the first month. Didn't see anything the second month. Kept taking the small-time gigs. Kept driving around Rodeo Drive, seeing all these famous actors, these big-time Hollywood houses. And I think it was like 8 months later, all of a sudden he gets a call, and it was Dumb and Dumber, the movie.
Yeah.
And they said, we want you to be the main actor, and we want to pay you $10 million.
Come on.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
You got to start to see who you can be that you've never been.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you got to start to see where you can go that you've never gone.
Yeah.
You got to start to see what you can have that you never had.
Come on.
Listen, the number one key to winning, I'm telling you right now, and this is like our superpowers, focus.
Yes.
But the kryptonite's distractions.
The phone.
Everything
The
out there to
scrolling.
steal your focus.
Yeah.
And I think so many people have abandoned their dreams and their goals. I think the first practical step is I want you to write down right now, what are the top 10 dreams for your life? And that's the same thing I told these people.
Yes.
Like, what does winning look like in your marriage? No,
Yes.
I know you. I know you want to see the current mess.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not talking about the current mess. I'm not talking about the current situation.
Yeah.
Don't be moved by what you see in the natural. What
Yeah.
does winning look like? Create a
Yes.
compelling vision beyond what you could just see with your natural eye. We're standing across from Oral Roberts University.
Yeah.
Oral Roberts did that, and now we have a whole campus. Your dad did that right here on this property and walked these grounds and saw a church, a school, a training center. All of this was here by creating compelling vision and waking God dreams on the end. So many people just dream too small. So many people believe too small. Take the limits off your life. Write the vision and make it plain.
Yeah.
Where there's no vision, people perish. The most practical first step you could do is you better define what winning looks like. If you don't know what winning looks like, how do you know where you're going?
Yeah. So you got to write the vision down, and then you got to start taking steps towards it.
Yep.
You got to not just see it, you got to start moving towards it, communicating that vision to yourself, to the people that can help you get there. One of the other things too that I think you've helped is challenging people to physically take back their life. People who have stopped going to the gym, people who have stopped doing push-ups, sit-ups, going for a walk, a run. If you can't walk, crawl, but challenging people to physically take back their life, because there is a physical side of this that connects to the mental and emotional side.
Yeah, huge.
Say a second on that. Just, I know we're getting to the end of this podcast, but just talk to the people that are watching, listening. How can they physically get their life back if they feel like, man, I don't have motivation to go to the gym. I don't have motivation to work out. I don't have motivation to do anything physically. I'm, people that are dealing with just settled mindsets about their body or about their future.
Yeah, forget motivation. Motivation comes and goes. It's great to get you going, but commitment keeps you going.
Yeah.
You got to find your why. You got to find a mission. You got to find a reason to do it. I said the 5 words that would kill your winning percentage earlier. I don't feel like it.
Yes.
The 4-word solution is act anyway, act now. And so if you can make decisions based off of commitment, based off of a vision, based off of mission, right? Based off of who you are, rather than feelings. A lot of times, if you're dealing with anxiety or pressure or noise, professional psychologists know this. Get out of your mind and get into your body. One of the greatest antidepressant medications in the world is exercise. Your body was created to move.
Yes.
And there's a direct correlation between the physical and the mental.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the number one things that people could do is get control of their physical body to create a little more integrity, create a little more discipline, to get some confidence and buy-in to who they really are.
Yeah.
It's not just about looking good, right? It's about your self-image. It's about self-esteem. It's about confidence, but it's also about longevity and quality of life. When you understand, I have a calling on my life. I've been placed on this earth for a purpose. Man, I don't want to miss out on that calling. I don't want a disease or something to take me out early. I want to live a life of longevity and quality of life. But you got to find that why. And you just got to get moving. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for feeling. Get a commitment, get accountability, and just start moving. When you start moving, motion creates emotion.
Yes.
Not the other way around, right? Action is what needs to happen, and action will create your new attitude, right? You just get in motion, motion will create your new emotion. You just got to get moving in any area of life, not just fitness. I think people don't take steps because they're scared and fear holds them back. What would you do today if you weren't afraid to fail? Do that.
That's so good. And I think it's the physical side of exercise, or even like you signing up for Victory Bible College, taking the step to go to Victory Church, the Word Explosion Conference, all of those physical steps mixed with the mental that leads to victory. When I was doing that 2.5 years of working out 5 a.m. with you before we had kids, it changed me in such a good way to take back control of whatever my feelings were telling me. Now I do workouts. I can't do them at 5 a.m. all the time, drive 5 kids to school every day, but you'll be happy to hear this. Even in the last week, I've continued to what I do with push-ups and sit-ups. And I've continued to up it. You know, the other day I went and did 300 sit-ups instead of just 100. Because sometimes I'll go, well, I'll do 100 this week, 100 push-ups. But I think challenging myself, get outside, go for a walk, go for a run, go do the thing you don't want to do. Challenge yourself to overcome what you feel. And so much of that has come from you challenging me. Like, Paul, you might feel like this. You sent me a voice memo the other day, and it was so encouraging. You'll do this once a month or once every couple months. You'll send me a 5-minute voice memo. But it's like a memo of encouragement and life-giving. Paul, life's not happening to you. It's happening for you. You're my pastor. Preached a great word this week. My challenge to you is make Easter the biggest Easter for victory yet. And those words of life, just for someone who's out there, use your voice, like Coach JC, to be a voice of hope and encouragement, challenging people to go to the next level, challenging people not to settle, challenging yourself not to settle. Any last words before we close out today?
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I mean, if you're watching today, I think the goal is this: you were created to win. You were created to live a life of victory, right? Become your best, and know that God's got a plan for your life. You got 2 cheerleaders here rooting for you. We know you can do it. Write the vision, make it plain, create a strong mission, a reason of why you show up every single day. Know who you are in Christ, and let's keep representing what victory looks like. You were born a winner, so go win and win all day.
Come on. How can people find you, find your books, find your podcast? Give them like a quick rundown of all your information.
You could just find me at Victory Church, baby. Come to Victory Church in Tulsa.
Come on, Jesus. But also give them the actual information.
Yeah, CoachJC.com or on Instagram or social media.
Come on, CoachJC.com. And then on Instagram, social media, it's just Coach JC.
Coach JC or the Coach JC.
The Coach JC. And your podcast, what is it?
That's Win All Day.
Win all day.
Yeah, we drop a winning word every day of the week, Monday through Friday. It's a short winning word. Yeah, just 5 to 8 minutes, just fire, motivational, personal development to help you walk out that victory and be the winner you were created to be.
I will say this, Coach JC is the next Tony Robbins, but even better. I mean this. Every time I hear you speak, you stir me and you stir other people in the way that he stirred you with his book. And so I believe you're just getting started for what God is going to do through you as a voice, a coach to the world, a coach to America, a coach to pastors, a coach to business leaders out there, and all people, not just people that are, in a role or position of authority, but everyday people that you are speaking life into, ministering to, and giving hope to. So we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for staying tuned on the PaulCast. Stay right here for more episodes like this. God bless you. Share it with a friend.